Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the weekly series where I get to chat with you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections. Finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. Yes, hello there. It's another week. It's another guest. And who is the guest on this week's episode, I'm hearing you all ask? Well, why don't we all find out? Sit yourselves down, put your feet up, make yourselves comfortable, and let's take a look at some of his collection in a musical montage. Alrighty then, so we have another week, another guest, and another tip-top collection. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Absolutely fantastic. It is a pleasure to welcome to the channel for the first time, probably the most laid-back bloke you will ever meet, Dave from Monkeyboy's Toys. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, man. How are you doing?
I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. I've got to say, you definitely put the chill in Tim's chill stream, didn't you? You really do. It's just so laid back. I'm
thank
loving
you.
it. You're
Thank you.
welcome.
And thanks for inviting me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you.
Well, no, it's an absolute pleasure having you on. We've spoken briefly on streams before and stuff like that, but you know, as a one-to-one goes, I've been looking forward to this. So awesome stuff. And like
Me
I say
too.
to everybody, it's people like yourself that keep this series running. So very much appreciated. As you were saying in the green room, you know roughly a little bit about the series. So I've got 10 questions for you, all about you and your collection. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, one time roughly about an hour. If we go over, nah, it's all right, isn't it? Not too bad.
Yep.
So
Yeah. No
yeah,
worries.
when you're ready, then we'll crack on with the first question.
All right then. Cool.
Awesome, awesome. What toy lines were you into as a kid, and what memories do you have of those toy lines?
I think some of my earliest memories were probably of toy lines like uh, obviously Star Wars and Motu. I remember getting a Darth Vader and a Luke farm boy when I was very young, and I hadn't actually seen Star Wars at that point. So to me, they were just cool action figures. I didn't have
Yeah,
any kind of any reference or any context for them. It wasn't until a couple of years later that I actually saw Star Wars and could appreciate who the characters were. But I
yeah,
certainly remember getting those at a young age. And I also vividly remember the first Masters of the Universe advert that came out, showing Beastman trying to get into Castle Grayskull. And I
wow,
remember that having a really big impact on me because I could see in the commercial that the figures were big and colourful, and that really got my attention. So they were the two sort of main toy lines, I guess, as a child,
yeah,
and obviously then that sort of varied as I got older. But I would say probably like many of us, Star Wars was the one that really kind of kick-started it.
yeah.
Um, I was never really into GI Joe or any of the military stuff, so it was mainly Star Wars for me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that about that you got the figures first and the vehicles first before you'd actually seen the film. It was the same for
Mm,
me. So I mean, I was 4 when Star Wars came out, and so I'd have been far too young to appreciate it. And I think it would have must have
hmm
been around the time Empire Strikes Back came out in 1980. I was that little bit older, and I remember
hmm
getting Luke's X-wing and Darth Vader's Tie Fighter. I got the Darth Vader figure and the Luke and X-wing figure, and
hmm
so again, like you, I couldn't really sort of like get my head around the figures. I mean, I'd heard of them, I'd seen them on like sticker books and stuff like that, but I'd never really sort of like put two and two together. And then
Yeah.
I saw Star Wars for the first time on the telly, and when I saw the S falls on the X Wings go up and when they're attacking the
Oh
Death
yeah.
Star, I had a whole new appreciation for that X Wing fighter and the toy line in itself, and I was like, well, this is just so cool. And
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I've got to say, it's interesting that you remember that Motu advert as a kid because I cannot remember
Yeah.
that advert at all. That must have been really something that stood out for you.
Oh, it really is, and I've seen it since. I mean, I think I probably watched it on YouTube a few weeks back. Watched it again, and I still got that same feeling of like I really want those toys, and I've got them, but I still got
Yeah,
that feeling anyway. Um, so yeah, that really did. Advertising definitely worked in that instance. Yeah, it really
I,
did.
I
That
think the
really did
packaging
stand
also
out.
had a lot to do with it as well, didn't it? The packaging, the box art, and everything like that, especially for Motu. Because for me personally, I think that's probably one of the best lots of artwork on a toy line that I think you're ever
Sure.
going to get to see because it's really vibrant, it stands out. And
Yeah.
imagine, I
Yeah.
mean, it's really hard to explain because as kids, we remember what it was like going into toy stores and just seeing these massive aisles full of Star Wars or Motu, Transformers or GI Joe, whatever it
Yeah.
was you're into as a kid. So,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
important was it for you then that the packaging really stood out? Because did that draw your attention?
Well, it did. I mean, if I take a few steps back and take a bit of a run up to this, um, when I was very young, I guess 3, 4, 5 years old, my father actually owned a toy shop.
Oh wow,
Yeah, he didn't work in the shop, but he owned it. He co-owned it
yeah,
with someone else, and they had a toy shop. Now, obviously, I was too young to appreciate the fact that it was my dad's shop. I didn't know that.
yeah,
But I would often spend a lot of time in the toy shop because that's where my dad was going in to check things out and to oversee the business. So I did spend a lot of time in the toy shop. And coming back to what you're saying about packaging, I think this is why I'm mainly an in-box collector, is because my
okay,
memories of toys were all of toys in their packaging. So I saw them all
yeah,
on display, all the Motu figures, all the Star Wars figures. I saw those all on the card and in the box, and that really made an impression on me. And I think to a certain extent, having toys on the card or in the box to me is a bit more exciting, in fact, than taking them out. I know it's not the same for everybody, but to
Yeah,
me, an action figure in on a card, it has a certain degree of promise and expectation to it. Um, and I find, I mean, of course, when I was younger, I did open the toys to play with them. I didn't
yeah,
keep them on the card. I mean, that would be crazy. But I think I really got an appreciation for the packaging and for that sort of thing. And when I started collecting again in later life, I bought figures planning to open them, but then
yeah.
actually when I got them in hand, I didn't want to open them. I just felt just something inside me said, "Don't open it. Leave it as
Wow,
it is. It's
interesting.
fine the way it is." So
Mm,
so for the most part, I collect on card or in a box. If there's a figure or a vehicle or something that I want to have on display loose, then I'll buy it loose. I won't buy it
yeah.
in the box because I've made that mistake before. I've bought multiples of things, planning to open one, and then I don't. So I have three in the box instead of instead of
Oh wow.
having
Yeah,
some
fair
loose.
enough.
I know
Yeah,
it's bizarre. I guess it's not an OCD thing, but it's kind of this mental block that I have. I
yeah,
would see, maybe a Black Series figure or a Motu Origins figure, and I would buy two of them, planning to open one, and I just can't bring myself to do it. So I've learned that if I want to do that, then I have to actually buy them loose.
mm,
So I have got quite a
awesome.
lot of loose figures
Yeah.
in the display, but
Mm.
certainly I like the way things look in the packaging,
I think
and
the
I think that
packaging
is a
as
big big
overall, because
part.
it's not just the figure, is it? It's the packaging as well. I mean, I, I know you get your loose collectors and you get your package collectors. Collectors. There's no right or wrong way of collecting, is it? It's personal preference.
No,
I can see the appeal to both. That's why I do both.
mm,
Um, but I think with the packaging and an inbox collector, I think it's not just the figure itself; it's the overall look of it, isn't it? It's the packaging included.
yeah, yeah, I think it does play a big part, and especially you know back in the 80s when you would walk into a toy shop and there would be maybe 6 feet worth of Star Wars figures, all
Yeah,
and they were all available as well. It wasn't a case of, oh well, I can't find this one. They were all there.
yeah,
They were all available. Certainly,
yeah,
certainly they were in my dad's shop. Um, and yeah, I think seeing those big, colourful displays, I think really there is it has such an impact, especially
yeah.
on a young person. And I guess that's
Absolutely.
just kind of stayed with me really.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're saying about that you had no sort of like interest in GI Joe or anything like that, but as I remember as a kid growing up in the 80s, you know, important time sitting in front of the TV watching GI Joe, the Transformers cartoons, the Motu cartoons, and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Did that play heavy with you? Did you get around and do that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I was so into Masters of the Universe that I actually quit my piano lessons because it interfered with the running with the broadcast time of
That is
He-Man.
dedication.
Um,
That is
I
dedication.
know I didn't tell my parents this. I mean, as it happens, my piano teacher was really not very nice, was very strict, and I wasn't enjoying the lessons particularly. But I remember they used to be on a Monday afternoon, and that was when He-Man was shown. And I didn't want to keep missing He-Man because the lessons finished, while He-Man was on. And
Yeah.
I told my parents that I didn't want to do the music lessons anymore, but I didn't tell them the real reason. I just said that I wasn't
Oh,
enjoying it, which was kind of true.
well, yeah.
But so I got my Monday afternoons back, and then I think within about 2 weeks of doing that, they stopped broadcasting He-Man. The series finished. So
Unbelievable.
yeah,
Gutted.
yeah. But Masters of the Universe is the reason that I'm not a concert grade pianist.
Well, what could have been, Dave? What could have been? It doesn't bear thinking about. So, you, why then were you not into things? I mean, like GI Joe or Transformers? Did those kind of things not interest
Oh,
you at all?
Transformers, I absolutely loved. Transformers, I was
Okay,
big into, and GoBots.
okay,
In
yeah, yeah,
fact,
yeah.
I would probably say that I was more into GoBots than Transformers because they were a bit more simplistic, and I
Yeah.
had more of them. So I had quite an army of GoBots. Transformers I did like as well, but I was never into military stuff. It just never it never did anything for me. I mean, I used to have. Do you remember those little green army men, the
Yeah.
little plastic
Yeah.
army men? Well,
Yeah.
I'd got I'd got given about 8 boxes full of these different ones, English, Germans, Koreans, all sorts of different armies. And I played with those to a certain extent, as in I would set them all up in scenarios and then just kind of
Yeah.
look at it, but I wouldn't play with them past that. It was just all in the setup for me. I would set them
Yeah.
up in the rockeries in the garden, or um, in the house or around boxes and things. So I kind of that was that was dipping my toe into the military stuff, but I was never I didn't watch GI Joe on the TV,
Wow.
and I was never into GI Joe or Action Force. I had one Action Force figure, which I don't even think was. It was an orange guy. I think it might have been the Space Force or something, because it was an orange guy with a grey helmet, as I remember.
Yeah.
And he was the only Action Force figure I had. I did get a hand me down. My friend's brother, um, when he grew up or whatever, he gave me his Action Man and
Yeah.
lots of different costumes and stuff. So I had one Action Man and many different costumes. Snow costumes, Green Beret, all sorts of different stuff. Um, and again, I didn't really used to play with him. I used to put the whatever uniform it was I wanted on him, look at him for a bit, and then change it for a different uniform. That's kind of how I played with Action Man. I
Yeah.
didn't take it because I only had the one of them. I didn't take them in the garden and have fights and wars and this sort of thing.
Mm.
It was more, I guess, doll play than action figure play, because I would just change the different costumes, and then
Okay.
when I got bored of looking at that, I would then change it to a different one.
Oh wow.
But it never really grabbed me, and I was never interested in getting like the tanks or the jeeps or anything like that. It just,
Wow.
for some reason, that just didn't appeal to me. Transformers did.
Interesting.
I was
Yeah.
big into Transformers. I liked them a lot,
Yeah.
and I got a few of them when I was younger, not too many, because they were generally a higher price point than the GoBots, and I had quite a lot of
Yeah.
those.
Mm. What was your? I mean, I think you've like touched on it before. But what was your
Sorry.
favorite toy line and why? What was it that made that toy line stand out above everything else for you?
Um, I think my favorite as a child was probably Masters of the Universe. I would say, because they were
Yeah.
bigger, they were colourful. Um, I liked Star Wars a lot, um, but I didn't have a huge amount of figures. I maybe had uh, 15, 20 figures maybe, and
Yeah.
a couple of mini rigs. And I think the biggest vehicle I had was the ATST. I didn't have anything
Okay.
bigger than that. I really liked that. But I would say that Motu really was the one that really got my juices flowing, as it were.
Yeah.
Um, I remember I had at the beginning I had He-Man and Skeletor, and one tragic day, I took either He-Man and Skeletor, or just He-Man. I think it was He-Man and Skeletor. I took them both to school, because you would have a day where you could take your toys in.
Okay.
Um, and so I took He-Man and Skeletor in, and I remember playing with them outside in the playground. And I put He-Man down, and then I ran off because I was distracted by something. And when
Yeah.
I came back, he was gone. Someone had pinched him, and I never found
Oh,
out
gutted.
who. Yeah, and I never told my parents that had happened, because I thought they'd be really cross with me for having lost him. So I kind of lost my He-Man figure, which was a shame. I've since bought him again, obviously. So I've got, in fact, I've got two
Yeah.
now. So just to
Yeah.
make up for it.
I mean, I've got to say, it's like I know that feeling because there was plenty of times when I went round a friend's house and I had bags of Star Wars stuff or whatever it was I was taking up there. and the bag would have holes in it or something like that, and I'd lose weapons or I'd lose a figure, I'd be absolutely gutted, absolutely
Yeah.
gutted. Because
Yeah.
although I didn't spend the money on, my mum and dad bought them or I got them for gifts and stuff like that. I'd like to look after my toys and stuff like that. I still do. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it really did upset me if I'd lost a figure or damaged a figure and something like that. I'd be gutted.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I recently did a video on my channel showing the 6 Decepticon Seeker jets, and when I opened the box to take them all out, I discovered that I couldn't find the bag of fists of their hands. Had a separate baggie with all 6
Yeah.
characters' hands in it, and it wasn't in the box. I don't know where it is. So I've
Oh well.
somewhere in the house I've
Mm.
mislaid a box of fists, and it was devastating. I mean, I was hunting high and low for them, and it bothered me for several days. Actually, it still bothers me. I
Yeah.
can't find them.
Yeah. It's yeah. I just, even now, if I'm fiddling with something and it snaps or it breaks, I just, for goodness sake. I mean, you can buy another one, but you just think, oh no, do you know what I mean? You just,
Yeah.
I hate it. And that's what I know people like moan about like quality issues and stuff like that on certain vehicles or and things like that. I totally get it. I totally get it. But it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. Um, when did you stop playing with your toys, and when did you become a collector?
Um, I think probably around about the age of 11 or 12, I started, or that's when I probably began thinking about other things other than toys.
Yeah.
It was around about the time that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toys came out.
Okay.
So we're talking about 89, 90. Um, and yeah, that toy line was kind of that bridged the gap between my younger self playing with toys and my older self not wanting to have toys.
Yeah.
Being more interested in chasing girls rather than playing with toys.
Mm.
Um, I think that the last toy line that I really collected any number of was Mask, and I
Okay.
probably collected that from about 10 year 10 years old, perhaps. A friend of mine that lived a couple of doors down, he was always getting new toys, and he had quite a large mask collection, and but he didn't have much Star Wars, because
Okay.
he'd got rid of it all when he was younger. But
Yeah.
he'd sort of regained his interest in Star Wars, and he actually asked me if I wanted to swap all my Star Wars for all his Mask, and when Mask came out, I was blown away by that. I was big into it because
Yeah.
it was such a good mix of sort of little action figures plus cars and vehicles that would transform into different
Yeah.
modes, and I really liked that. So I asked my parents if they would allow me to swap my Star Wars collection for his Mask collection, and we just did a straight swap. So I gave him all my Star Wars figures, and he gave me all his
Who
Mask
had the better
vehicles.
deal? Who had the better deal?
Well, at the time, I thought I did because I got quite a few vehicles and figures, and they were all complete and all in great condition.
Yeah.
I've still got some of them now, but financially speaking, I mean, if he still has the figures, which he won't have, but I mean, in today's market, he probably got the better deal. But I was more than happy with that,
Yeah.
because I was very taken with Mask when it came out. That really did
I mean, those
get me. I
vehicles
kind of
looked great, didn't they? They really did. I mean, I think the
yeah,
first
yeah,
couple of waves, think I really enjoyed. I didn't have many myself. I think I had a couple, but I think those first couple of waves I thought were absolutely superb. And then I think as
yeah.
the time went on, wave three. Then I think it was wave four or whatever.
Wave
I
four
wasn't
was a
too,
bit of a miss. I
yeah, I
mean,
wasn't too keen
the
on
thing
those
with
kind of
wave
vehicles.
four is yeah, well, waves waves one and two and um, well, one and two were in the cartoon show, and then
Yeah.
wave three was also in the cartoon show, but the racing series when they changed the cartoon series to be um, more kind of racing tournaments and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But the fourth wave of Mask toys weren't featured in any of the cartoons, so there was no
Yeah.
media to back them up, and I don't think they
Yeah.
sold particularly well. I don't mind one or two of the fourth wave, but I've got I've got the first wave, the second wave, apart from one vehicle which I'm not a big fan of,
Yeah.
and most of the third wave. But um, certainly the first two waves were fantastic. I
Mm.
mean, you've got absolute classic toys like Switchblade,
Yeah.
Thunderhawk, Condor. I mean the little green motorbike Condor. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say at least half of my friends had that. Um, it was
Yes. Well,
it was
that's one of the
very
ones I
popular.
had.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I really did like Mask, and I
Mm.
still continue to like Mask, and still was very fond of them. Even when I was sort of 12, 13. But when I was about 15 or 16, my my mum or my dad convinced me that I should get rid of them, that they were just taking up space and I didn't need them anymore. And I sort of agreed with them. So I sold them all at a car boot sale,
Uh,
with the exception of Switchblade, which had been given to me by my parents for my birthday one year, and I think maybe I kept Raven, the black Corvette,
yeah.
um, and maybe one or two others I had, but I sold the majority of them. I remember selling Rhino for £8.
Good God.
Um, I
Oh.
know, but at the
Well, it's a lot of
time I
money
was
in those
quite
days, I
happy.
guess, to a kid, wasn't it? A lot of money.
Well, I suppose, and I mean, I sold a lot of other stuff as well. Various toys and figures and bits and pieces.
Mm.
And I was quite happy having the money, because at that age, that was quite a considerable amount of money for me. But I did regret it years later. Um, and then I guess I kind of started collecting again maybe when I was about 18 or 19. I started buying some of the Power of the Force Star Wars figures because I quite liked
Yeah.
the look of them. Um,
So you
and
what?
and I
You like the look of them?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't mind them. I didn't mind them. I mean, some of them were ridiculous. Some of
Mind
them
you,
were
saying that, I
ridiculous.
suppose, because you like the style of the He-Man figures. They're quite chunky and they're big. Was that what
Yeah, yeah, and I
was it?
like
That
the
kind of
packaging,
mold
and
that
I
pulled you
kept
in?
I kept a lot of them on the packaging.
Yeah.
And I also picked up lots of the vintage ones as well, because they were still at a reasonable price. You could get, I mean,
Okay.
I think I bought like a complete mint condition Vader for about £6, £7.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I
Yeah.
bought
Yeah.
several of my favourite figures like Leia Bouche, Lando Skiff,
Yeah.
um, uh, obviously Bib Fortuna, Squidhead, characters like that, and I bought several of those vintage ones while they were still,
Yeah.
because I think I identified that they were soon going to go through the roof price wise, so I picked up quite a few then, while I was getting the Power of the Force stuff.
Mm.
Um, and then I got into some of the early McFarlane stuff, some of the horrific figures that they would do. They would do Movie Maniacs and
Okay.
Tortured Souls, stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
picked up a few of those because I liked the sculpts, and I thought they were just interesting for me, because to me they were the next level of action figures, something I would have loved when I was a kid. Um, and then I kind of went on hiatus for quite a long time, and it wasn't until my probably early 40s that I started collecting again,
Mm.
because I came across the Black Series figures, and I had missed them when they were released. I think they came out in 2013. I think the line started, something like that, 13, 14. And that completely passed me by. I didn't know
Mm.
anything about them. And then just before the first lockdown, I think I was just browsing on eBay, and came across a Black Series figure, and I hadn't seen the line before, and I
Yeah.
was just blown away by the detail and the articulation, and I think I just thought I would have loved these as a kid. So I
Yeah.
decided to treat myself to a couple of them, um, just for display purposes, and I just didn't stop. I kept going and going and going, and now I've got hundreds of them.
Yeah, so you prefer Black Series over TVC then?
I like TVC, but it's not something that I mean, I know Black Series take up more space, but I got into Black
Yeah,
Series first, and then I discovered TVC. But I'm very selective about the TVC figures that I buy. I only buy my real favorite characters. So I've got again Leia Bouche, Lando Skiff,
yeah.
Bib Fortuna. I'd like to get a squid head, but I'm not sure if they've done a squid head or not yet. Um,
Not yet in Black Series. No, no, not yet.
no, in the
Oh, hang on, in
TVC.
TVC.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have, but the thing is, he's in a four
Ah,
pack. That's the only issue.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He was in that Jabba's
So
Goons four pack.
yeah, of course, yeah. So I might pick him up loose, perhaps. And I've got sort of one or two other TVC figures that I really like the sculpt and the face printing on. I've
Yeah.
bought Hera Syndulla and Sabine Wren from the Ahsoka
Okay.
show because I thought they were fantastic figures.
Yeah.
I've got Enfys Nest and a couple of range troopers from Solo, a Star Wars
Yeah.
story. Um, but that's about it for TVC. I've probably only got, yeah, maybe 10 or a
Mm,
dozen TVC figures. It's mainly the Black Series that I went all in on.
yeah.
I haven't got them all by any stretch. There are certain figures that I didn't want, but I did pick up an awful lot of them, and I must have, I don't know, 150, 200. I
Wow.
haven't
That's
counted
that's
them.
an
I don't know.
incredible amount of figures.
I mean, I
Absolutely.
haven't got as many as Shabby because I think he's got the lot. I think he's got all of them.
Yeah, he's got quite
Um,
an extensive collection, hasn't he, for sure?
yeah, yeah, but no.
Mm,
So I'm not a completist in that regard. I don't
yeah.
need to have all of them, but I certainly have got a lot of them, and I've got multiples of some of them, as I said, because I bought sort of two or three of some of them, hoping to open them. Have one
And you
to
haven't
one
opened them.
one to display in the box, one to have loose,
Yeah.
and one just in case.
Yeah.
Um, so. But yeah, that's when
Brilliant.
it really kind of started off with the Black Series again in my early 40s.
Yeah.
And then from there, I then decided to pick up some more of the mask vehicles that I had sold at the car boot sale. I wanted to get them back in the collection again, and things just kind of snowballed from there. Really,
It's
got into
easily done, isn't it?
Motu. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Easily
I
done.
mean, Motu, Ghostbusters, all sorts of stuff. And then, of course, I went a bit bonkers over the space of about 3 weeks, and I bought all of the Bib Fortuna figures that were on eBay in the UK. Um,
That was going to be my next question. That was going to be my next question because I was going to ask you, what is it that you currently collect, and do you have any focuses? And I emphasize the word on focus because you have got what can only be described as an unhealthy infatuation with the original Bib Fortuna. I mean, how many of those figures
it,
do you have in your collection?
it's bizarre. I think I've got either 102 or 103. I can't quite remember, and I
Now
don't
the
want to
question is
count them all
why?
again.
Why?
It's a great question, Stu, and it's one that I'd love to have the answer to. I really don't know. I already had a Bib Fortuna, a
Yeah,
mint condition one, complete one, and for some reason I thought, oh, I'd like another one of them. So I bought a second, and then I thought, well, I don't really like odd even numbers, so I prefer odd numbers, so I'll buy a third. And then I bought a third, and I thought, I've got a little army here. I'll buy a couple more. And I saw there was someone was selling a lot of about 7 of them, so I bought those. And I just thought, what? I'll just keep going then. I'll keep going. So over the space of about 3 weeks, I bought every Bib Fortuna figure that I could find in the UK on eBay. And so I think I've single-handedly driven up the price of Bib Fortuna figures because you couldn't
that
you couldn't get them anymore. I'd bought all of them apart from the
is
ones that were in,
incredible.
in really bad condition.
Yeah,
I mean, I've probably got about 30 or 40 complete, and then I've got others that don't have the staff accessory, and then
yeah,
I've got others that don't have the belt, but the chest armor thing,
yeah.
and I've got maybe 3 or 4 that are completely naked, as they say. But yeah, I mean, I've got quite an army of them, but it's bizarre.
It is. I won't
I
lie.
did a top five video with Luke a couple of
Yes.
weeks
Yeah.
ago where we did our top five Star Wars figures, vintage figures, and Bib Fortuna only made my honourable mention. So Bib
Yeah.
Fortuna's not
Again,
even
that is when I found out about your unhealthy infatuation with Bib Fortuna. I mean, you can understand it if it was like a rebel trooper, if it was a stormtrooper, if it was a biker
sure.
scout, or do you know what I mean? But to solely focus on one character, I find that I find that incredible. And it's not just Bib Fortuna. I've noticed you've also got like a little collection going on with Squid. You've got
Yes,
more than
I've
one
got
or
a
two
squid head.
Heads.
Yep, I've got 12 squid heads. Squid head is actually my favourite Star Wars figure.
Yeah. Is
I've
it to
got a
do
lot
with
of
the
layer.
robe? Do you like the soft goods? Is it something you like the soft goods on them? Or
I
I don't know.
like the mixture of the soft goods, the
Yeah.
belt, and the head sculpt. It's fantastic. Whenever I think of Star Wars, I always think of Squid Head,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
because of that head sculpt. And it wasn't something, obviously because he only appears very briefly in the movies,
Yeah.
in the movie. Um, so I don't quite know why I like him so much, but I prefer him to Bib Fortuna. I wish I had
Mm.
102 squid heads rather than Bib
Well, you
Fortuna, to
never
be
know,
honest.
do you? You never know. I mean, listen, if the price of TVC Bib Fortuna and Squid Heads go up, we know why, don't we? You've probably got them all. It's just I don't that is I find that fascinating. I really
it's
do.
it's
I mean, I
weird.
know
I
some
wish
people
I
have like a focus where they get like say for example Bib Fortuna, but they've got one in the vintage collection, they've got one original Kenner, they've got a black series, they've got like
yeah,
take for example Tim from Bosk's Bounty. He's got
yeah,
different variants of Bosk, hasn't he? Graded
yeah,
and
sure.
the bootleg versions and stuff like that. I get that. But I mean, there's a version of Bib Fortuna. Is it a Lily Leddy version? Are you interested in
Yeah,
getting him at
yeah,
all?
with the burgundy cape.
Yeah, you're gonna look
Is
at
that
getting
is that
him.
is that the one? I've got a custom
I believe
one.
so. Yeah,
I couldn't I
you've got
couldn't
one.
afford the. I've got a burgundy cape one, yeah, but it's a custom. It's not a
Okay.
it's not a genuine Lily Ledy one. Because I
Yeah.
didn't have £3,000 spare.
Sorry,
Um,
how much?
I think it was about 3 grand the last time. The last one I was watching on eBay. It was a graded one, with a burgundy coat.
Wow.
But no, I've got one with a burgundy coat that's been custom dyed.
Yeah.
But it's not an original one. I mean,
Good
it's not
God,
a
that's a
it's
lot
not
of
a
money.
genuine one.
That's a lot of money. So you
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're opposed to spending that amount of money, yeah?
yeah. No, I mean, I did. I The Bib Fortunas, when I bought them, they weren't that expensive. They are now,
Yeah.
of course, thanks to me.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
no,
mean, this leads
it was
perfectly
okay.
into the next question, Dave. Do you have a Grail piece that you're wanting to put in your collection? And I generally say it doesn't matter whether it's an expensive item or it's something that you've seen a few weeks back and you thought I'll go back and get it and you've missed it and you've not seen it since.
Um, not really. For a very long time, my Grail piece was the Ghostbusters Firehouse.
Okay.
But I've got that now. I've got
Yeah.
an absolutely mint condition one, perfect. That hasn't been it hasn't yellowed. There's no marks on it. It's complete. I got it for an absolute bargain. I was very, very lucky. I think I just caught a good timing on eBay, and perhaps everyone was asleep when I bought it. I got a very good deal, and so I've got the Ghostbusters Firehouse now, which I really wanted, um,
Yeah.
because I use it to display my figures, my Ghostbusters figures on and around. So that for the longest time was probably a Grail piece.
Mm.
Um,
I mean, you're a big
I
Motu
think
fan. What about something like the Eternia playset?
no, I don't have any connection to Eternia. I don't remember it from when I was young. Well, I vaguely remember it from when I was young,
Yeah.
but it's such a big piece, and I don't have the room in the house for it. Even in the box, I wouldn't be able to display it anywhere. So that's not something
Does
that
is that
I
important to
care.
you? Is that important to you having a connection with something?
Nostalgia is a is a big factor in
Yeah.
stuff. Um, for the most part. I have nostalgia for everything that I've got in my collection, bar the modern stuff. Obviously, there's no nostalgia for the Black Series because it wasn't available when I was young. But I would have loved that when I was a kid, which is
Yeah.
why I collect it now. Same with the TVC. Um, Obviously, with Motu Origins, there's sort of nostalgia, although they're more articulated than the vintage ones.
They're pretty close to the original look, aren't they?
They are close. I collected all of the Super 7 Motu figures. I think they released 24 before they lost the license, so I got all of those.
Okay.
And I'm very keen on the new cartoon collection
Yeah,
ones,
yeah. God,
the
they look
Filmation
fantastic,
ones.
don't they?
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
very
Oof.
good. I've got Man at Arms, Skeletor, and Teela at the moment.
Oh, you've dipped in already, have
I'm
you?
Yeah, yeah. Quite bizarrely, the place that I bought them from got the second wave before the first wave, so I'm still actually waiting for He-Man and Beastman,
Yeah,
although they were released first, so I haven't actually got those in hand yet. I got the Teela a few weeks ago, and it's absolutely fantastic. Such a attractive face sculpt. It's
yeah,
been done really well. The sculpt is great. The face printing is great. Um, I would say it's possibly better than some of the higher end or some of the better Black Series figures.
really.
It's
Wow,
Yeah, the Teela figure is stunning. It's really really good.
wow.
But I've only got one each of those, so I'll be keeping those all in the packaging, obviously.
Yeah,
Um, I suppose the other items that I really would like would be the Club Grayskull um, Motu figures that were released originally by, I think, Mattel, and then Super 7 took over. I've got a few of those. They're like the
yeah.
7-inch um, versions.
Okay. Yeah,
They're quite good. I'd like some of those. I'd like He-Man and Skeletor in the Club Grayskull line, but they're very expensive. I think you're looking at about 150
cool.
to 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 well, even I've seen some for £300.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and I can't really justify spending that kind of money on a single figure.
No, well, no,
But
no, no. I get that. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
um, I've got a few of the Club Grayskull figures. I've got about 6 or 7 of them, maybe.
Okay.
And I do like those. But I
Mm.
think this cartoon collection, this new filmation style that's coming out, I think actually is probably some of the best Motu that we've had.
Yeah, I
Of
need to dip
course,
my toe into that. I do like that. I've got to say because I just started
uh,
collecting Origins, and of course they stopped doing Origins. I'm a bloody typical. So,
yeah,
but
well,
yeah,
they changed it so that you could.
yeah,
I think they're not going to be sort of released at retail. I got out when they started releasing the Snake Men figures because again I had no connection to those, so I kind of
yeah,
stopped at that point. I got all of the ones up until the Snake Men were released, and then I sort of stopped with that.
yeah.
Um, but
Well, I wouldn't collect
yeah,
all of them. I wouldn't collect all of them. It would be just the ones that I had as a kid. I mean, I've not even the other room. I was going to say I've got a few of the ones that I liked and that I had as a kid,
yeah.
but I wouldn't collect sort of all of them. What about a sentimental or a prized piece within your collection?
That's such a difficult question because
I'm sorry I asked that
I
question.
I really like all of my stuff.
Yeah,
Um, I can look at anything. I mean, I could say, well, the werewolf from the real Ghostbusters line is a real favorite of mine because it's one that I wanted as a child and I never had. Um, and I've got two of them now. I really like that. But then I could say, well, actually, my um, my squid head figures I really like. I could
yeah,
say it for absolutely anything. I've got loads of vintage Motu that I'm really very fond of. I don't think I could pick any one thing. I think if the house was on fire, I don't think I'd rescue anything, quite
what?
frankly, because
Wow.
I wouldn't be able to. I'd end up burning to death because I'd go in there and say, well, maybe this, maybe that, maybe the other. Oh, I'm dead. I don't think I'd be able to choose. There are so many
Wow,
pieces that
wow.
really bring me a lot of joy. I mean, my Egon Spengler Ghostbusters figure, I had him as a child, and I really like that. That's got a strong sentimental attachment, but I don't know that I would save that over, say. my DC Direct Supergirl figure, because that is an absolutely amazing figure. So
Yes,
I
yeah,
honestly don't.
I saw the picture of that. That is absolutely
Oh
stunning.
no, that's
Oh, that's not it.
no, that's not it. No, the that
Oh,
picture is that's a I forget I forget the manufacturer now, but it's like a resin model, but it's about 10 10 12 about 10 inches high maybe,
yeah,
and
that's
that's a
that does look
really,
stunning. Yeah,
yeah, that is a stunning figure. Um, but the no, the Supergirl figure that I'm referring to is one that was, I can't remember what year it came out, but it was, I think it was the 2010s maybe. Um, it was a DC Direct figure, and it's absolutely amazing. And it was produced before the face printing became a thing.
yeah.
And it's a really good face sculpt. It looks fantastic, and I think it's the best Supergirl figure that we've had to date.
Oh wow,
Um, and so I'd be tempted to grab that. So quite honestly, I don't think I would save any of the toys
wow,
in the event of a
interesting.
fire or a flood. I think I'd go and find my cat. I'd grab her and leave.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
I suppose that the one thing I might grab is this little fella,
Okay,
and
is that
this is
Sooty?
Yellow Bear. No,
Oh,
it's
Yellow
not.
Bear.
It's this is Yellow Bear.
Right.
And Yellow Bear was given to me when I was born. Um,
Oh wow,
uh, so I've had Yellow Bear all my life.
that is incredible.
And so I think possibly, if anything, I would possibly grab Yellow Bear, which is weird because it's not an action figure, and I don't. I mean, he's a cool little thing. His nose is a bit chewed because I used to chew his nose when I was young,
Oh wow,
apparently.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I've had Yellow Bear all my life, so
that's incredible.
he's coming up for 47 years old now.
He's held up well, isn't he? Really?
Not too badly, yeah. Just his nose has
Yeah.
taken a bit of
Other than that, but I
a
mean, on
chewing.
the whole, normally the arms would be falling off and stuff like that. That's pretty good
Yeah,
nick.
yeah. I mean, he's a bit threadbare on his paws. You know, he's starting to
Yeah.
wear a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
but
he's
he did
getting on,
get a
isn't
lot of
he? He's
love.
getting old. Old
He is
bugger.
getting on.
Yeah.
Yeah, bless him. So yeah, I thought we'd have a look at Yellow
That's
Bear.
cool. That's cool. Um, if you could go to any toy convention in the world, right, which one would it be
Mm.
and why?
Um,
You know, you got these big comic cons that they do. You've got them in
yeah,
London. You've
yeah.
got
I
them in
mean,
San Diego.
yeah, I think probably the San Diego Comic Con, probably
Yeah.
just for the just because I mean, it is what it is. It's one of the biggest ones. There's a lot of stuff that's revealed during
Mm.
San Diego. So I think that would be um, probably the one. I mean, if I'm honest, I
I
wouldn't
mean,
want to go
would
to
you
any of
sit in
them.
one of those would you sit in one of those meetings where they're doing the reveals and stuff like that? Is that something that would interest you?
I think so. But having said that, I do feel a bit anxious with loads of people, so I think I would find it quite stressful. I wouldn't want to travel to America. Like the travel alone to America would put me off. But if I could teleport there, I'd quite
Yeah.
happily do that. Yeah. And depending on what the reveals were, yeah, I think I'd be interested in that.
Mm.
Particularly if it was, you know, something from Mattel, and I thought that you know, Motu was going to get a look in.
Yeah.
I'd give that a go. Um,
What about over
but yeah,
here, like closer to home then?
um, well, I live in Norwich, and we have a toy fair here 3 or 4 times a year, and it's very, very small, really
Yeah.
small. And I can just about cope with that because it's small enough that I can go there. I don't feel too overwhelmed. I can whiz
Yeah.
round the whole thing in about 20 minutes. I can do a whiz around the whole stuff just to have a quick glance to see what's
Mm.
there, and then I can have another couple of laps to dive a bit deeper into things.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was one at the beginning of February, or middle of February. There was one, and I went to that, and I got the early bird. I was the fourth person in line, I think, or fourth or fifth person in line. So I was in there right at the start, and I did a quick lap of the whole thing, and it took me maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes to whiz round every stall. and by the time I'd done one lap, I was 60 quid down. And
Wow.
that was just a
Yeah.
very shallow dive, and then I did a deeper
Yeah.
dive and went round again, and got some more bargains.
Awesome stuff.
But yeah, the bigger toy fairs, I see some of the fairs that VTR goes to, that Toy Polloi goes to,
Mm.
Slime House, these channels, they go to these big toy fairs, and it, I'm anxious watching it, because I just think, oh, you can't get round quick enough, because what happens if the last table has got something you want on it, but it's going to take you an
Yeah.
hour to get there. I find that quite anxious, you know.
Mm. I mean, they can get quite jam packed. I mean, we've got NEC coming up in a few weeks' time, so we're looking forward to that for sure. And that's more to
Yeah,
looking forward to meeting up with people than what it is actually looking around the toy fair itself. We've got
yeah,
Sandown, which is a local one to us. We visit that quite a bit, and we get early bird. So even then, it's still fairly busy. But as soon as the rest of the public come in at a certain time, I think it's 10:30 or something like that. Oh man, yeah, it's a bit managed. We've normally hightailed it since then. And I
yeah.
find it interesting that you say it's stressful going to America. I find it's the other way around. I quite like the journey out there. The coming back that gets me because it's the thought of coming back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can appreciate that. I mean, I lived abroad for a while. I lived in Croatia,
Oh wow.
and I mean, I won't go into the story now, because it's not relevant to the topic. But
Yeah.
I actually emigrated to Croatia a number of years ago, and I wasn't planning on coming back. But for one reason and another, things didn't work out, and I
Yeah.
had to come back to England. And I must say, I really didn't want to come back. Really didn't.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're the only one, mate. I don't think you're the only one. But moving swiftly on, what was
Hmm.
the reason behind you starting a YouTube channel? And did you have any influences?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I mean, there are several reasons. Because I've got two channels, as you may well know.
No, I didn't.
Um, okay. Well, let me plug those then.
Please
Um,
do. Please do.
the my main channel, Monkeyboy's Toys, was
Yeah.
started around about just before lockdown, I think. And I'd been watching. I'd gone through a very difficult time in my life. I'd been made redundant from my job, and I'd lost my mother in the same fortnight.
Oh, okay.
And
Sorry
I
about that, man.
really became, that's all right, man. I became very unwell because of that. And I started watching channels like um, All Things 80s, Retro Blasting,
Yeah.
Toy Galaxy, which is obviously Secret Galaxy now, Pixel Dan, Shartimus Prime, channels like this, because I'd sort of started to regain an interest in action figures and toys.
Yeah.
So I would say those channels, and particularly like All Things 80s, really made me think, do you know what, I could do this. It really inspired me to 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 share the things. I think when I would hear people like Dean and Michael talking about um, childhood toys and talking about nostalgia and bringing this sort of stuff up, I thought, I'm interested in this stuff too, and I've got a
Yeah.
collection of stuff. I could I could make videos about this and share my enthusiasm and passion for the toys that I enjoy. So that's why I started my channel, my main channel. My second channel, Skeletor,
Oh yes,
is a
yes, yes. I do know about that channel. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a weekly Q&A series with, yeah, it's me, you fools. Um, and that really started off as kind of an in joke. It wasn't really my idea as such. I was speaking to a friend of mine, Ben, and we were discussing my channel. And Skeletor had appeared on my channel a couple of times.
Yeah.
And we just got to talking, and we said, wouldn't it be funny if Skeletor had his own channel? And I thought, actually, that's a brilliant idea. Um, and 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 so I decided to put a couple of videos up, to create a channel for Skeletor, and just put a couple of videos up was my initial idea, just so that if people watched my Monkey Boy's Toys channel and they saw Skeletor referring to his channel, that there would actually be an actual channel that they could click through and
Yeah, yeah,
see some content there. It
yeah,
was never meant to be or it was never intended to be a long running thing. I didn't think it would have that amount of legs. And I did an introductory video, just sort of saying hello, welcome to the channel. Um, Next week is going to be a Q&A video, so please send your questions in. And I got several questions in from viewers. Luke Reynolds was the first person to send me a question for Skeletor.
mm,
And I did the first week, and I thought it went really well. And at the end of it, I just said, yeah, if anyone's got any more questions, send them in to me. And they just kept coming and coming and coming. And we've
wow,
done, I say we, Skeletor and I, we've now done 70. It'll be episode 77 coming up this
that's
weekend.
incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible how that's come
So
about
so
and
well
how it's
over a year.
just, yeah, taken the legs and stuff like that and carried on going.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's absolutely
well
brilliant
over a
when
year
things like that
now.
happen.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I never imagined. I must admit the subscriber count isn't where I probably think it should be. But
Yeah,
having said that, um, I, I'm sitting in the sweet spot at the moment in that I get just enough questions every week to make it a good length episode. And I think if I
yeah,
had 10 more people asking me questions, I would have to start restricting the amount of questions people are allowed to ask. Because at the moment I've got a limit of 3 questions per
person.
week per person.
Yeah, awesome.
And I don't really want to have to reduce that down, but as the channel grows, I will have to do that.
Yeah,
But yeah, certainly, and it's a very rewarding thing to do because it enables me to be creative. It gives me it's a challenge, when people ask questions, because sometimes they'll ask a question that's something to do with Masters of the Universe.
yeah.
Other times I might get a completely random question like how long does it take to paint half a leopard, which is fantastic. I don't,
Yes.
I,
Well,
I,
these are
I
the questions that people need answering,
yeah, of
Dave.
course, yeah.
To be fair.
So it's really
Wow.
good. And actually, to be honest, the questions that I get, the viewers are doing half the work for me. All I need to
Yeah,
do is not drop the ball. They set it up. I
yeah.
just need to knock it down.
That's
So no,
incredible. Absolutely
it's
incredible.
really really rewarding. So I'd
Because
encourage people to check
you
out.
also do a lot of collaborations with people, didn't you? I've seen you do collaborations with Luke Reynolds. I've seen you on Tim Hayes's Chill Stream, and I've also seen you recently on APD's channel as well. So, how did those
Sure.
collaborations come about?
I think it's just a mutual enthusiasm for toys and for the subjects. I mean, I got chatting to Luke, probably about a year and a half ago, possibly a bit longer, um, and we just sort of floated the idea of maybe doing a video at some point.
Yeah,
And you know how these things are. You sort of say, yeah, we'll do that, and you think, well, I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but it was something that Luke um, maintained an interest in, and so did I. And then one day we just said, heck, let's do our top 5 mask um, vehicles.
yeah,
And I really enjoyed doing the collaboration with Luke. I think it came out really well. He did a fantastic job with the editing and putting the video together, and I really enjoyed making the videos. So then we did a part 2 of our best of the rest video, mask vehicles.
mm,
And we've recently done a Motu Origins one, and most recently the Star Wars top 5. So I really enjoy those collaborations with Luke. Um, and yeah, I met Nick um, last year, probably middle of last year, towards the end of last year, and we became fairly good friends um, quite quickly, really.
yeah,
We do mesh quite well together. And um, Nick had appeared on Tim's live stream several times, and Nick and I had got on very well, and we had a good
yeah.
rapport. And so it was only natural to kind of suggest maybe we do something together. to do a live
Yeah.
stream together. So yeah, we started that last month. We're not at the moment. We're not quite sure how frequent it's going to be, but I think it is something we'd like to continue doing because we really
Yeah,
enjoyed the
absolutely.
last one.
Yeah, yeah. No, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we're coming to the top of the hour. I've got two questions left for you, so let's crack on.
Okay,
The next
all
question
right.
is, how long does it take to paint half a leopard? No, I
Um,
was actually.
it,
I'm not going to waste the question. I was only joking. You do not need to answer that. The real
Gloss or
question.
emulsion? Gloss or emulsion?
The question is, what gives you that toy collecting buzz?
um, I think just seeing the toy in the packaging
Yeah,
is it really does it for me. Much more than opening it. I mean, I like the hunt. I like
yeah,
to browse on eBay and find something that I like. I like the anticipation of it arriving, and I like how it. I like looking at them in the package, and I like knowing that I've added it to the collection. It's not hoarding as such, but I like knowing that I've added more to it. I've recently got some more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm pleased that the collection's growing. Um, and I'm also happy that I've got no family to leave anything to. So when I die, they're going to have to dig a really big hole and put everything in there with me.
awesome stuff. I mean, again, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a line that I never got into as a kid. It's a line that scares me just because of the sheer
Really?
size of it. It is a massive line, and I feel that if I
Yeah,
dip into it with certain, like I don't know, well, not so much Neko, I guess, but like the originals or it would just take up a lot of room and stuff like that. So that's one toy line I've not sort of got
yeah,
gotten into.
yeah.
But
It is a big one. I mean, particularly the Playmates line went on for ages. I mean,
Playmates, that's it. Yeah,
yeah, when I started, I only wanted the 10 or 11 core characters. So the four turtles, the main bad guys and henchmen, and one or two others. And I thought
mm,
that would do. But sadly, that's not the case.
yeah,
I got another,
yeah.
I bought another five a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's one of those things. Once you sort of once that tap starts to drip, it turns into a torrent fairly quickly.
Yeah, yeah, I've noticed that on quite a few of the toy lines. What do you prefer doing? Do you prefer going out and seeing the toy in real life and buying it there and then hunting for it, or are you quite happy getting stuff offline?
Quite happy doing it offline. I haven't
Yeah.
had too many. I mean, there've been one or two occasions when I've been sort of stung and I've bought something and I've maybe got a bad paint job or a Friday afternoon job. Um, but for the most part, I've been really lucky with the stuff I've bought online, and I'm quite comfortable doing it online.
Yeah.
There aren't that many toy shops around. I mean, I'm very close to In Demand Toys, it must be said,
Okay.
which is a great store.
Yeah.
Um, and I do like going out and browsing, but my bank account really doesn't like me doing that. Because I'll go out just intending just to have a look, and I'll come back, wondering what I'm gonna eat for the
Yeah.
next week or so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no,
I'm
no,
sure
I think
we've all
on
been there.
online is good, and I like being able to get bargains on eBay and stuff like that. Find stuff that
Yeah.
that maybe is a little bit cheaper um, than you would be able to find in a store. So and again, it depends on what it is. I mean, if it's vintage stuff, quite often you have to get it on eBay or
Yeah.
Vinted or somewhere like that. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Last question then. What does your collection mean to you?
Um, well, at the moment, it means everything to me. I mean, not only does it give me a sense of satisfaction and calm. If I get anxious or worried about stuff, I know I can go and look at different items in my collection, and it can ground me and make me feel a lot calmer. Um, and also, of course, without my collection, I wouldn't have my YouTube channels, which is a big part of my week, um,
Yeah.
and gives me something to look forward to, something to aim for. So I would say it's a really big part of my life, probably more than I would maybe like it to be. I mean, if I lost my collection, I don't know that I would recover, because I'm so invested in these in these useless pieces of plastic that mean so much to me. Um, they remind me of my childhood, with the items that I've got that I had when I was a child. Obviously, they bring me that nostalgic feel. Owning the figures and vehicles that I wanted as a child and never had. Obviously now,
Mm,
being an adult with adult um, income, I'm able to buy things that I wouldn't ordinarily have been able to do as a youngster.
yeah.
And no, I just think it's a really big part of who I am. Um, if somebody, I mean, I've been in bands, I've done artwork, I've written stuff, I've done all kinds of things. But if you were to ask me who am I would probably say I'm a toy collector.
That is awesome. That is really awesome. Yeah, I love the answer to that question. That was absolute top notch.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, really sort of definitely pulling on the old nostalgia strings there, and just thinking about what you said, very reminiscent, I think, to how a lot of people feel within the toy collecting community. It does, I've said many a time, I come in here after a crap day, I can just sit and look and just reminisce, and just it does ground you. It brings you back down to that happy place, so to speak. And
Yeah,
I think therapeutic is a good word. It really is a good
yeah.
word. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I couldn't disagree with you more. I could did I say that right? I couldn't agree with you more, should I say? Is all
I
over the
mean, you
place.
can
Yeah, I
disagree with
couldn't
me
agree
if
with
you
you more
want,
with
but
what you
nobody
said there, and
nobody
I
will
think you
believe you.
yeah. No, I think you've absolutely nailed that. Absolutely fantastic. Dave, that has come to the end of the conversation, mate. Just one
Okay,
last
well, thanks
question.
so
Where
much
can
for having
people
me.
find you on social media?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Monkeyboy's Toys, but aside from that, I don't really do social media. I am on Facebook. People can find me if you search for Dave Monkeyboy, I'm on there. You might be able
Is
to
that
track
is
me
that more
down
of a
on.
personal thing, your Facebook?
Um, yes and no. I mean, I'm quite happy to chat with people on there and meet
Yeah.
new people on there. But my Twitter is Monkey Boys Toys. So
Yeah.
follow me on there if you want. I would
And you got
encourage
your
people to check out my main channel and also Skeletor's channel, which is called Skeletalk. If
right.
people want to find his channel, they can go to my channel, and if you look in the video description on any of my videos, you'll find a link to Skeletor's channel. So do pop along to Skeletor's show.
Absolutely.
Ask him
Absolutely.
anything you like, and
Yeah,
he'll
yeah.
respond to you in the next week.
Fantastic. What I will do is I will leave a link to both YouTube channels, your Twitter and Facebook, in the description below.
Thank
So
you, man.
awesome stuff.
Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you being on. I appreciate you taking part in the series. Appreciate talking to you. It's a fascinating conversation. Love chatting to you, mate. It's been an absolute
Thank you,
awesome
man.
conversation. Thank you so much,
It was a
man. Really did appreciate that. Thank you so much.
it's a
For those of
it's a
you who
pleasure,
stayed
man.
to the end,
Pleasure.
a massive thank you. Really do appreciate you taking the time to watch this series. Um, as always, appreciate your support. Take care, stay safe, and we shall catch you in the next video. Bye for now.
Bye.
Please help.
Please help!
Make a wish come true.